Hi, I'm Patrick Clay for Tiger TV Sports, and we're here inside the football operations building with none other than LSU Football head coach Les Miles. Les, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Patrick, our pleasure.
Well, let's get right to it. LSU Football's on a bye week. I'm sure some much-needed rest after 9 straight weeks of football. Just going into a bye week, talk about what your team's mentality is for an off week.
Well, it's a right thing. We really are not too ambitious. We don't want to get all of the game plan in for the Alabama game. What we're looking to do is get health, rehabilitate our bodies, refreshen ourselves, get our legs right. Those guys that have nicks and knacks that are need some time off, they get it. And these practices are not as physically demanding as some that we'll have next week, but. We'll do some self-scout. We want to find out what the opponent sees when we line up against them. And of course, we'll study our opponent.
I'd imagine that a bye week also this late in the season is a great time for you to examine your development over the course of the year with this team. Can you talk about how this team has progressed going into this?
Well, every offense, defense, and special teams as a unit, and you have every position group, which would be like the offensive line, defensive line, secondary, running backs. Within that, there's development. And individually, those guys that, like a guy like Mettenberger at the quarterback spot, how's he coming? And what you try to do is tailor some of your individual periods and tailor some of your presentations in teaching to the development of your room as an assistant coach and as a coordinator.
Well, you mentioned the defense. That's a group that went through a lot of changes this past offseason going into this year, and you guys have tried a bunch of different lineups. How do you think that unit specifically has progressed over this season?
Well, I think we've improved, certainly. I think there is youth there. I think that youth will be served. It takes time and experience for those young guys to play and blossom. They're getting there, and we look forward to their play in this game. I think you'll find some young guys playing better and better each week.
Well, you mentioned the Alabama game. Let's go ahead and look on to next week. I know you say never to overlook an opponent, but we don't have an opponent this weekend.
Well, we figure to win every bye. In fact, I've never been defeated in a bye week.
Undefeated in bye weeks.
So far.
Add that to the legacy. Well, speaking of Alabama, they are the #1 team in the nation, and it's on the road. And everyone could argue that LSU-Bama is a bigger rivalry than most. So just talk about your expectations and how you're preparing for that game, or maybe how that'll ramp up next week.
I think our team looks forward to preparing for our best opponents. Certainly, Alabama has been that. I think there's a very mutual respect for the two teams. Certainly, we have it for Alabama. I would guess that they have it for us. I think that there's enthusiasm for game week that's unlike any other, and we will enjoy preparation and play. It's a great venue. It's loud, and it's one of the classic matchups in college.
And we remember the last time you guys traveled to Bryant-Denny, the 9-6 game, overtime. That was a great atmosphere. Do you want to try and replicate some of that success from last time?
Yeah, we would like, no matter what the score is, it makes no difference as long as you finish as the last tick is run off the scoreboard, one in advance of the opponent. That's really all you care about. We would like to see a game with a similar ending. I think these games always have different slants. I think certain games can play to a defensive ending, and certain games will play to an offensive ending. It'll be, you kind of have to find out once you get there.
Well, speaking of Alabama, your team hasn't beaten that team since the 9-6 victory. And just looking at...
Well, that was last year. It was, or I should say, the last time we played them at their place.
Right. But just looking at your team's last 4 losses between Bama, Clemson...
Here's what it is. It's the last 3 minutes or so of the game with the opportunity to have the ball. Right. We had the ball in really every game. Should we have used the clock? Should we have gotten a first down running the football? We could have, taken our opponent out of the game, and that's something that we've worked on and we've practiced and have been better at. The Florida game certainly was a game that you got in the back end of the game and you didn't let them back on the field. You kept the ball.
Is there anything specific in practice that you try to work for those to avoid those kind of endings? Maybe like clock management or just trying to get a certain 2-minute drive?
We try to work the specific pieces of what is every situation on a weekly basis, and you can never get to all of them.
Well, speaking of another topic, there's Kavara Holmes, another incident off the field, and you've dealt with a couple of those in the past couple of years between Jeremy Hill.
Well,
Joe
here's
Brazil.
what you try to do. You try to deal discipline in an even, smooth, correct fashion and treat everybody the same. And what happens is certain incidences are escalated for some reason, and certain incidences they're different, and they have to be dealt with really individually. And Kavara's has been suspended, and just not unlike anybody else. And we're waiting for him to kind of put his plan of behavior back together. And when that happens, he may see the field.
All right, Coach. Well, one last question. You don't want to look too far in advance, but just give us an overall outlook on the rest of the season, how your team plans to finish strong.
The finish is way too far in advance. We're looking to finish this open week, and then we're preparing for Alabama.
All right, Coach. Well,
Hey,
thank
nice
you so
seeing
much.
you.
Appreciate
You
it.
bet.